KYOTE is not a new assessment. The KYOTE exam is a tool that's offered through the state to certify students as being college ready and is one of the two assessments recognized in the college readiness section of the accountability model. The two assessments are ACT and KYOTE. So just please note that ACT Compass is no longer available or administered. Okay, so just like with any assessment, there is a user guide that guides schools through the process, and you must follow those guidelines in order for the assessment to be valid. So you should have received a copy of the user guide in your resource packet, and any time that you have questions about KYOTE, that would be your first resource to check with is in that user guide. There are roles and responsibilities for administering the KYOTE assessment. So you need a placement class owner, an exam scheduler, a student account creator, teacher, exam proctor, building assessment coordinator, and a district assessment coordinator. So these are the roles, yet each district is given flexibility in the number of people involved. These positions can be held by one or more staff members.
KYOTE is an assessment, much like ACT Compass, in that you administer the assessment subject by subject based on student need according to their ACT score. For example, if a high school senior scores less than 20 on the reading portion of the ACT, he would be eligible to take the KYOTE College Readiness reading exam. If that same student scores a 20 or higher on the KYOTE reading assessment, he will then be deemed college ready in reading. A student who passes an exam in one of these areas is considered college ready in that area and is guaranteed placement in a credit-bearing college course in that area without a need of remediation at any public college or university in Kentucky. State universities have signed an agreement with KDE that states they will accept KYOTE benchmark scores for entering freshmen. Testing frequency. The exam can be taken only once each semester or trimester after targeted intervention. It's important to note that that should be done after targeted intervention. There are two and only two exceptions to this rule. A senior high school student who is enrolled in targeted intervention may take the KYOTE exam as a pretest at the beginning of the intervention, early in the semester, and then immediately after the intervention, after the 2 months of intervention, at the end as a post-test. So the exception is if you use the KYOTE as a pre-test and a post-test for intervention, meaning the child can take the assessment twice during the same semester when used as the pre-test and post-test. Students who have been involved in targeted intervention for at least 2 months and then take the test and are within 2 points of passing the assessment may also retake the exam once within a week of the first test. Only one such retake is permitted per student per subject. So these are the only two exceptions to the rule of students only being able to take the assessment once each semester with a total of 2. The same testing frequency policy is in place for college algebra. Just note that the scores are different. The reading and writing exams have no exceptions and can only be taken once each semester or trimester. Let me repeat, the reading and writing exams have no exceptions and can only be taken once each semester or trimester. It is very, very important to understand that the writing exam must be taken in one of the testing windows, which are August 8th to December 2nd or January 2nd to May 6th. Only exams submitted within these testing windows will be scored. The assessment is online, and if your students have learned a comprehension strategy such as highlighting important information, it is possible to do that with the KYOTE platform. It might be important to direct teach how to highlight before the exam. Information on how to highlight can be found in the user's guide. The best way to direct teach that would be when they are taking the practice exam. Students should only bring blank paper and a pencil or pen to a reading exam or writing exam. Students should only bring blank paper, a pencil, or a pen and an appropriate calculator, which will be described on the next slide, to a mathematics exam. No other electronic devices, formula sheets, or other written material are permitted. KYOTE does use the KDE calculator policy, so standard scientific and graphing calculators are permitted. If you wish to read the KDE calculator policy, the link is on your slide, and we will also send that link out after the presentation. The following types of calculators are prohibited. I'll give you just a moment to scan over that slide to review the calculators that are prohibited. Please note that at the very bottom of this slide are calculators that are permitted. The TI Inspire non-CAS is permitted. The Sharp EL 9600 is permitted. Letter keys not in a query format are permitted. Students who intend to take KYOTE placement exams must have a student placement account created for them by a teacher or other school official. There is a new feature called batch creation, which allows the designated school official to create student accounts for a large number of students. The designated person entering this information must have an instructor account with instructor rights. The file used to create the accounts using this method provides a permanent record of all student account information. Please reference Section 6A of the User Guide for additional information on batch creation of student placement accounts. In addition, a school official should keep a record of all student account information in case a student forgets their password. Accommodations for Special Needs Student Policy. KYOTE recognizes the accommodations identified on an individual education plan, 504 plan, or program service plan. So accommodations that are listed on a student's IEP and that has been used in the classroom may be used on the KYOTE exam. There are currently no large print, braille, or special forms for the KYOTE exam. For most sight-impaired people, using a large screen monitor with the exam zoomed by 300% is suitable. Since scalable fonts are used, there is no distortion. If this is not sufficient, there are some names at the end of this PowerPoint that you can contact for that information. And I'll go ahead and give that to you. Paul Eakin from the University of Kentucky and Steve Newman from Northern Kentucky University. Their contact information will be listed at the end of this PowerPoint. So if you need extra support in serving those students who may have special needs, special accommodation requirements, please contact those people.
So, based upon numerous district requests, we are going to spend the next portion of the webinar focusing on the writing exam. So during the writing exam, students write an essay online in response to a prompt. The exam then requires hand grading by certified high school scorers, and the scoring process is what makes the writing exam unique. We will walk through the practice writing prompts and scoring rubric later on during the webinar. So each high school must have one certified scorer for every 15 students who take the writing exam. Each exam must be scored at least twice. Therefore, if you are planning to administer 100 writing exams, then your school would need to be prepared to score approximately 200 exams. And it's very important to note that you will not be scoring writing exams from your own students. And also, administrators really need to support this component, because without a certified scorer on staff, your exams will not be scored or graded. It's also important to provide those scores with some release time if possible, because it is a time-consuming process. So keep in mind that the scores have a deadline to meet in order for the writing exam process to be efficient and effective. A 6-hour certificate will be emailed immediately following passing the scoring exam. So if a school wishes to give the writing exam to 30 students, for example, it can be done in 2 sessions of 15 students each, or maybe 3 sessions of 10 students each, or even 5 sessions of 6 students each, etc. So this limit on the number of students per session facilitates that grading process, since a scorer will be asked to grade the essays of all the students in a session. So you want to make sure that you note that as you're assigning students to take these assessments. So on this screen, you're going to see some examples of how you should name your classes for testing purposes and organization, so you can keep up with everyone. It's also important to be aware of the testing windows for the writing exam. Only exams submitted during these testing windows will be scored. So August the 8th through December the 2nd for the fall 2016 semester, and January the 2nd to May the 5th for the spring semester. So for the writing exam, please note those dates, because if you do the writing assessments outside those windows, they will not be scored. So writing exams are scored based on the college readiness writing rubric provided to each participant via email. You know, I suggest that you provide that to your students as well, so they know exactly what's expected of them, and use that in your daily classwork. The scores range from 0 to 8, and a score of 6 or more is considered passing. So the scoring process will take approximately 3 weeks, since it has to be scored by 2 scores. So in the event that 2 scores do not agree, then a 3rd score is required. And we will be reviewing and scoring using that rubric later in the webinar. It's very important to be proactive in supporting teachers during the scoring process. It might be beneficial to allow all students to receive interventions during the first semester, so they would be eligible to participate in the first semester window of exams. Anyone who has been granted access to placement class can access the exam results for that class. The status of each exam changes as the exam moves through the submission process to final score. So both the students and the class owner will receive an email when the exam score is finalized. Each prospective scorer must pass an online exam in which they will score 8 writing pieces using that college readiness writing rubric. So once you complete the practice tests online, you will be familiar with the format of the actual writing score exam. To better prepare for the writing score exam, in your resource packet, you have all of the practice writing pieces along with their scores based on the rubric. So once you've practiced and you are ready to take the writing score exam, you must contact Janet O'Connell and she will schedule that for you, and you see her information there on the screen. We will actually go through one of those practice writing samples in just a few minutes. So once you pass the exam and you become a certified scorer, you may begin receiving exams to score and must complete the scoring within 10 school days from the date the exam is assigned to you. You may be asked to score exams prior to submitting writing exams from your students. So as with any writing, you need to watch for plagiarism and you must report it. So a score of 0 will be given to a student found to have plagiarized. So on the screen you'll see how to take care of letting someone know if you suspect plagiarism.
Now we're going to take a tour of the website. So as we mentioned before, www.KYOTE.org will take you there. And there are several features in which you can access without even having to log in. For example, practice exams. Under the Students column, select Practice Exams, and it will pull up various practice exams that are math in general. You've got college algebra as well as college readiness. You can simply select, and it will pull up these practice exams. You can easily print these and give them to your students, and at the very end you will find the answers. So those are really good resources. Also college algebra practice exams as well. Very similar. You can also, if you ever want to get back to the home page, you simply select KYOTE up here at the top. Another free, or not free, but another feature you can access without having to log in is instructional resources. If you select this, you can see it talks about Northern Kentucky University created almost a math textbook kind of specific to KYOTE. And this is a free textbook. However, they do provide you with those with a $7 fee, and that includes shipping, and they will spiral that for you. However, as we were doing our research before this webinar, we realized that if you continue to click and continue to research a little bit, you can find this for free. It's free in general, but you can print it off and not have to worry about ordering it from them. So if you select this link, and you will find to the left Transitional Course Materials. Go ahead and select that. And down here at the bottom, Transition to College Mathematics Textbook. Select that. And there it is. It is 213 pages. However, you can just print that and do what you need to with your school. But that's also a really great resource we have found. And I'll scroll down and kind of give you an example. And it really goes in in depth here. And it does a really good job of explaining things throughout this, so it is a very good resource. Another tool you can use is the user guide. We have references throughout the day. Just a simple click under the instructor link. This is very, very important. It explains so much. It really goes into great detail. And notice that it says fall 2016. The current version is usually on the KYOTE website. There are other versions out there. So instead of just Googling KYOTE user guide, we do recommend that you get it directly from the website, as it is the most current version. Also, if you do not have an account, registration is very simple. If you are a teacher, just underneath instructors, select register. And then you've got just your basic registration, email, password, security question. Pretty simple. And then you can choose your school and or district in this section. When you have filled out this, you can just create user, and it's, like I said, it's pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And what I want to show you now is how to access that KYOTE writing score practice. It's a little difficult to find because it's under student placement. However, it is for the instructor. So what you're going to do is you're going to select student placement exam. And at the top where it says select a practice exam, you're going to go down to the very, very bottom. KYOTE writing score practice. Be careful not to select KYOTE writing practice, but KYOTE writing score practice. Once selected, you're just going to start the exam. It may prompt you at the top to select OK. And you have the writing score exam, the practice exam. So you can see, you can reference the rubric. You can select readiness indicators, different notes. We're going to go over some of these in a little bit. And this is very important to remember that this is for teachers, the educators who will be scorers. So say question number 1, I'm going to select one at the top, and you will see a corresponding code will match up or item number will match up. So I'm going to score this. Let's say we give it a 6. And like we mentioned earlier, 6 or above is passing. It's very, very important that you have a thorough justification in this section. As we were trying some of this out and practicing, we had the correct answers, and so we just selected, 6, 7, 4, and we would just simply put like, nice job. However, when we finished and submitted the practice exam, we had all the answers wrong and we couldn't understand. So we contacted, and we were told that if you do not provide a thorough justification, it won't count it as being correct. So you may have actually got the score correct, but without the proper justification or without a thorough justification, it's not going to count. So be very aware of that. You can also just select, usually if you select this over here, this code, it will pop up the passage. So you're going to go, there's 5 questions, 5 passages, and then when you're finished, just submit, and it will let you know what you made. So that was just kind of a basic tour. This is the rubric. Let's take a deeper look at this. You should have received a copy of this in your resource packet. Since you have this, you should have received this, like we mentioned earlier, but students must score a 6 or above in order to pass. So when you have those instances where is it a 6, is it a 5, sometimes it is difficult to distinguish between the two scores. Writing pieces can receive a passing score with both grammar and spelling errors. The passing writing piece must be readable, focused, skillfully scripted, and aware of the reader. Here are some tips to help you determine when a writing piece should receive a passing score. You want to make sure that ideas are developed. There needs to be a focus on the topic at hand. It must be organized. And it will give you a sense of the author's passion. Now that we have looked at the rubric and talked about the sweet spot scoring, let's take about 5 minutes to practice scoring using the writing on your screen. When you are complete, please share your score in the chat box. So we're going to give you about 5 minutes. Go ahead and read this passage. And when you have completed the passage, go ahead and just, like I mentioned, just mention or just type in your score in the chat box. Okay, thank you all for working on that for a moment. This piece actually received a 6, as several of you had listed in the chat box, and I'll give you a moment to just kind of read those justifications. As you can see from this example, grammar and spelling does not significantly impact overall score as long as it doesn't interfere with clear and meaningful writing. Additional justifications for this being a 6 are that it had clear organization, the reader could understand exactly. 6 is a passing score, so this was a passing passage. Keep in mind, when you score, you must provide justifications, as I mentioned earlier. We had a few questions about reading practice exams. I am going to go back to the website for just a moment. Okay, if you're looking for reading practice exams, still under the students column, select practice exams. Oh, I'm mistaken, I'm sorry. You will need to log in as a teacher. I'm already logged in. Student placement exam page. And where it says select a practice exam, it's going to go down to KYOTE reading practice. We're going to take a look at that. Gives you 15 questions. This is a great tool. This is a great way to replicate what the test would actually look like with your student. So question 1, you can select artwork and it matches up passages. It's important to remember. Let's see. So question 6, I would select depression and my passage would come up to reflect. That is very important, especially to teach your kids that skill, to be looking, I did it again, Twain, it just pops up. It's easy, but it's just something that may not be a normal thing that kids are doing every day. So be sure and teach that. I'm going to go back to the writing. Now you can see it gives you instructions, gives you a prompt, and it allows the student to answer here. This, you'll see this at the end when you grade or when you're taking that practice, that scoring practice. This does allow you to see how many grammar mistakes there are, and you can see it was still a writing piece going back to that passage we did a few moments ago. As you can see, it just highlights, heroes, and then it has here. And if you select this, it will give you a little bit more explanation. You can see in purple the mistakes made. So that's just a good tool to kind of validate maybe your score, or just kind of realize that grammar has an impact, but it is not a make or break, it seems like.
So the practice exams that can be found in the student login, looks like there are math. Let me go back to that place, that spot. So under the teacher login, there's KYOTE writing practice, math college readiness practice, college algebra practice, calculus practice, which we will not be testing in that area, reading practice, and the writing practice. Those practice assessments could be used during your intervention time. Students could be taught, these practices allow students to be taught how the exam is laid out as well as the content. I'm going to go to even the math college readiness practice exam. And so you have the textbook that's provided in the resource stage, but then you also have the exam, practice exam, that's laid out just exactly like the actual KYOTE exam will be. So what is the equation line whose graph is shown below? So students you could even do this on a smart board and have all your students in your intervention work together to answer the question, or you might want to use it as a learning check before they take the actual exam. So lots of good resources here under the KYOTE student login. Important when you complete each of these questions, you go on to the next question, and of course you want to submit the assessment once you are complete.
We are almost finished. We do want to open up a little bit if you do have any questions, or if you would like us to demonstrate anything else on the website, we'd be happy to do that. If we don't know the answer offhand, I promise we will find it. So we're just kind of going to open it up. If anybody has any questions, feel free to use that chat box or even your microphone at this time. Yes, we will send that out. To check user account information, I would contact Paul Eakin at UK. It seems like he's one of the main guys out there, and he's been very helpful. We have asked him several questions throughout the making of this webinar, and as we researched to be prepared, I would contact him. As you can see, his information is there. If he's unavailable, Steve Newman is also very helpful. They work together closely. And again, any questions that are specific to writing, Janet O'Connell, there at the top, she's got our email, kywritinghelp@ky.gov, has been very, very great to work with. She has responded very quickly and would be very willing to help you. Okay, thank you, Karen, for sharing that with the group. Karen has let us know that in the math practice or assessment, you can click on the drop-down menu to change the screen to show all the questions instead of one at a time. This is great on the assessment so students can scroll through and do the questions in any order. Thank you, Karen, for sharing that.
Okay, so we had a question, does only the person who creates the exam see the results? So yes, the person that creates the exam will get the report, but then a student will also receive their exam results.
Missy, we do not have, Missy's question was, do you have statistics concerning the pass rate for each test? We do not at this time. We suspect maybe in the near future as this becomes used more often, we may in the future, but not anytime near soon. Paul Eakin may have that information, but we have not seen it. He may also be a contact for that question.
We believe, as far the question, we have a question. We have heard that students will be able to see who scores their writing exams. Is this correct? We believe that it's anonymous, but we will research that question along with some other questions here that we're not sure about, and send an email with each question and that answer that we find out. Students do only need one account for multiple tests. I believe there's a question by Tara. Even if there are multiple building assessment coordinators in a building, they all cannot access student scores. And I believe it's the account creator and the instructor who can access the scores. So at this time, it looks like questions have slowed down, and we have covered the content that we have today. We do have all of these questions on our chat box, and we are not going to leave you hanging, as they would say. We will answer those questions. We will research the answers and send a mass email with those questions and their answers. And we will still stay logged on until 10 o'clock. So if you want to stick around and ask some more questions, we encourage you to do so. But this does include our webinar for the day.
Again, thank you all for participating, and we will be sending out a survey just to gather some more information about this webinar and about the KYOTE. Thank you all again. Feel free to stick around. We will try to help you as much as possible. Yes, Kathy, we can share that link. It is on the KYOTE website, but we can share the direct link in the mass email we send out later. You're very welcome. Tara, on your question about saving, it used to, but we will need to validate that answer, so we'll do a little more research on that and address that in the email as well. We think you're okay there, but we just wanted to double check before we give you a solid answer. Great question.
Hey, Lori, the question about the sample prompts, we've had access to I think 5 or 6 prompts that we included in the resource email that we sent out. We will look and research and see if we can find some more prompts. Those were the prompts that we were given, provided by Janet O'Connell, the KYOTE writing coordinator. But if we find more of those prompts, we will include those in the mass email that we send out.
Thank you again for your participation today. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and have a great weekend. Thank you.